Luan was born in 2013. As usual, you expect everything to go well. There was no indication before his birth that anything was wrong. So it was quite a surprise when they took him away to the NICU. It was a terrible time actually because I couldn't see my baby for a bit and we didn't know what was going on. You speak with doctors, but they don't really give you answers because they don't have answers. So we had to wait a long time. Luan was born 19th of July 2013. By that November only did we get a diagnosis of what's going on with him, and it was an unclear path. They did a lung biopsy after they did a lot of tests. They did sweat tests for CP. I got a whole list of things that it could probably be, and eventually we ended up doing a lung biopsy, and a pathologist in Cape Town got to the diagnosis of pulmonary interstitial glycosinosis. And what that basically means is the thickening of the lungs through glucose buildup in the lungs, and it makes it difficult to breathe. So he needed to be on a ventilator. We went from an oscillator, big ventilation machine, to a smaller ventilator later on, but he had to have help the whole time to open his lungs to breathe. So we got to a stage where Luan was in hospital for around a year, and Discovery started telling us that we must go home. So for a kid on a ventilator and full-time care, it was a scary thing. How do you do it? He had ups and downs. He had times when we had to resuscitate, and some of those times I was actually in hospital with him. So now you're thinking you have to go home. What if it happens? So we started a process, and we had big fights with doctors and everyone. And eventually, by 495 days, it was time to go home. But it was a long process to get there. We got some help to make the final decision. So we met up with Caressa and his team, which stepped in through Discovery. Before that, we didn't want to go home. I can't handle it. My family can't handle it. So how is it going to work? We fought with the doctors, with Discovery, with everyone, with doctors in my family. I got a lot of input. And they also said you don't take the child out if there's not any help and any machinery, any backup, because you're going to struggle with that. And we don't want to go back to hospital. I don't want to go from home back to hospital, call an ambulance and put us in that situation and put Luan in that situation. So we all sat together. I had input from my family. And at the end, when Caressa and his team stepped in, it started to make sense. We tested ventilators throughout the last bit of his stay, and I could see that it is possible to take a child home on a small ventilator. Caressa and his team stepped in, they did assessments, and we started to feel more comfortable with the idea that we can get a care worker that's there 24/7. The idea that we have support if needed. A medic can come directly to my home, know what's going on, know the history of my child, and assist. So I think that smoothed it out a little bit. Also, it was a year and a half. We were tired of hospitals, and Luan had to get home. He's got family that hasn't seen him. So we needed to get back into a normal groove, and we wanted to show him outside. Since then, he has been there just once. He had one trip outside. He hasn't seen anything outside of hospital. When we arrived home, it was a rush to set up everything and get everything ready, connect the machines. We had now care worker permanently in our space. We had Luan coming home. So it was quite a shift. that first week. But I remember that first evening we put Luan into his pram with his machine, and we all sat in the TV room and watched TV. After a year and a half, we pushed him outside on the stoep. Family could come over, friends could come over. We went for walks. The care workers took him out. Even when I was working, they would go for a walk, connect his machine, go check his vitals. About a month after that, we had our first trip to visit family for Sunday lunch. So it did change the dynamic. I had a child that could look around at things and see things for the first time, interact with his parents, with family and friends. We could go places, even if it's just for short bits. We could go places and do stuff. So it was, it made a big difference to go home.
Baie lekker daar om bij de ijsbreads in de kaartjesverhouding. Over de kaart met mama en ja, dat is baie lekker.
We started a process where we wanted to wean Luan from the ventilator to see if he can cope on his own. You can't just take a patient off a ventilator and there they go. So it is a process over a month, 2 months. With the help of the team, we documented every step of Luan's breathing, his saturation, and what he needed every time. How long could we take the vent off for before his saturation dropped? How well he did without a vent. And slowly but surely, we got to the process where we went 1 hour, 2 hour a day, every second day. But it was very important that the people that worked with him knew what they were doing, because it's a very dangerous thing. Like I said, you can't just take a child or a person off a ventilator and there they go, because their lungs has to get used to it. The whole body has to get used to it. So with the help of a qualified team that were trained to do such things, to take it from full-on ventilation down to where the child can have a normal day without a vent, where Luan could eventually go to a creche and be there the whole day without his vent, only be on the vent for the night, and eventually go off the vent completely. So Luan is now in grade 5, he's 12 years old, and he goes to school every day without a vent. He was decannulated in the beginning of 2020. We always remember that, the beginning of the year of COVID, so that was quite stressful that year to keep him safe as well, but we had teams to help us with that. And he goes to school, only sleeps now with a CPAP machine at night, but furthermore he's fine. And I think it was because of a gradual process we started when he was younger, and we did it the right way.
Ja, ik was baie blij. Ik was nog alive. Ja, dat is baie lekker sonder die machine. Al wat ik wil, is net die slaapmachine wat ik nou gebruik. Maar verder wat ik nog steeds. So ik speel nou games en speel met mijn liefste Sally. En ja, so alles is.
As a mother with a newborn baby, that is already a life-changing thing. Now you get to a stage where you are rolled in, your child is not with you in hospital, they are lying in an ICU. You don't know what's going on, you go through all the emotions of being a new mother as well, and you do all these long hospital stays throughout your child's time in the hospital. So eventually you get to the point where we have to go home, and what do you do? What do you decide? What's the best for your child? I would recommend that you speak to a home-based care group like Caressa. They have numerous nurses, trained nurses, ICU nurses. You've got medics on staff that will show up at your door. They've got the contacts with the medical aides. and sit down and have a chat with them. Ask them the questions about all the things you are afraid of or wondering. Ask them how it will work if there's another person in your home, where that person will say, what the duties are of that person. How do they know that your child is okay? Do they record it? Do they give feedback to the office? And I think the biggest thing for me was that we had a bigger structure of support, not just a person trained in my house, but the structure of, if something happens, an ambulance can come to my door and they would know exactly what to do. Service provider like Caressa, give them the answers. It's all documented.